So, when it comes to making decisions in life, as humans, it's in our instinct to want to avoid regrets at all costs. I mean, think about some of the key decisions you've made in your life in the last year or so. How many of those decisions do you regret now that you look back on them? And how many of those decisions were you hoping you wouldn't regret in the midst of making them? Well, in this conversation, I'm going to share with you 5 big decisions that new minimalists almost always regret and are the sole reasons people who make these decisions struggle to live intentionally with less clutter and more clarity. To kick things off, decision number 1 is making a rushed decision. Now, if you wouldn't mind taking a quick trip with me down memory lane, all the way back to the very beginning of my journey, almost 7 years ago now, when I first started minimalism and decluttering. And at this time in my life, I had so much clutter, it was ridiculous. I'm talking every aspect of my life was cluttered physically, mentally, and emotionally. But for me, the one place I got my start at was with my bedroom closet and the clothes that I owned. And for me, I had a very focused attitude, right? I had tunnel vision. I just wanted to get the clutter out of my life, right? I was on a mission. The clutter had to go point blank, period. And that's the job I set out to do. And it served me well, right? I was able to get the clutter out of my life, which was my plan pretty quickly. And it also helped me to push through some of the hurdles and obstacles that I got hung up on. But at the same time, I also ran into a few regrets later on. And that's because the eagerness I had to reach less caused me to make some rushed decisions and overlook some of the things that I may have wanted to keep or some things that I wasn't quite ready to let go of because I was still emotionally or mentally attached to them. See, the thing about making a rushed decision in life in general, not just in the context of decluttering, is that a rushed decision will always stem from a place that lacks clarity, right? A rushed decision will always stem from a place that lacks clarity. And when you make a rushed decision, your only objective is to get the job done by any means necessary, right? Just get the job done. When I first started decluttering my life and was going through the clothes in my closet, my only objective was to get that clutter out of my life, to get rid of the clothes that I no longer needed, point blank, period. And if I've learned anything on my journey thus far, it's the importance of having clarity and the fact that faster doesn't mean better. See, sometimes it's important to just slow down, right? To move with more intention, to move more methodically. Because when you do that, you're actually still getting the job done. You're just avoiding the regret that could possibly come later. So before you jump in and make a rushed decision about the things you're trying to declutter in your life, I want you to ask yourself 2 questions. Number 1, who am I making this decision for? And number 2 is, do I have enough information or enough clarity to help me make an informed decision that will help me reach my ultimate goal, what I'm trying to achieve? And in this case, that's less clutter. Now, to continue with decision making, decision number 2 is putting aesthetics before ethics. Now, both aesthetics and ethics are important and have their role on our minimalist journeys. However, you should never put aesthetics before ethics on your list of priorities when it comes to your journey. And here's why. Aesthetics is one of those things that can easily be replicated, but ethics cannot. As an example, you can go on Pinterest right now, or Instagram, or Google Images, or anything really, and look up a minimalist design style or an interior design style that you like. Maybe that's Scandinavian, or Japanese, or Japandi, which is a blend between the two. Or it could be modern or mid century modern, or brutalist, which is a design style that I've recently learned about, dating all the way back to the 1950s, actually, where there are buildings or architectural design that showcase bare building materials or structural elements over decorative design. So think of exposed concrete as an example, which is actually pretty cool if I'm being honest. However, there are so many minimalist design styles and simple design styles out there that can easily be replicated with not much effort, right? You can buy furniture that would make your home look more minimalist. You can paint your walls or hang artwork or choose to not hang artwork that will make your home look more minimalist. You can lay out your furniture and the flow of your home and the color palettes and all these different things that can make your home look and feel more minimalist, right? An aesthetic can be replicated easily, right? You can go on Google or Pinterest, like I said, and look up something that inspires you or that you like and replicate it pretty easily in your home. But on the other hand, ethics cannot be replicated in the same way. And here's why. For context, I think it's important that we define ethics first because having an understanding of what this means is an important piece to this conversation. Ethics are moral principles that govern a person's behavior or conducting of an activity. From my perspective, moral principles, which are guidelines that people live by to make sure they're doing the right thing, or guiding principles is another phrase for it. But moral principles or moral philosophy or core values are all ideas that I think are interlinked from my viewpoint. And it's why I constantly talk about the importance of not only knowing your core values, but living by your core values and using them as guidance for your decision making. And if you need help with your core values, you can download my core values worksheet if you want. Just go to my website at ronaldbanks.com/values. Now, to bring this back to my main point, the reason ethics cannot be replicated the same way aesthetics can is because my moral principles or my guidelines for how I choose to live my life or how I choose to raise my family, my core values will not match yours exactly. And they can't be replicated. My why for decluttering, my why for choosing to own less, my reasons for making minimalism a part of my life and a part of my family's life will be different from your why and will be different from what keeps you going and motivated to own less. See, having this piece, right, without this vital piece and the clarity around your why and knowing your ethics, I mean, sure, your home and your space may look minimalist from an aesthetics perspective, but the question that remains is how intentional and purposeful is your life really? How much clarity do you have around what is and what isn't important to you? And these are the type of questions we should be asking. These are the type of questions we should be thinking about in addition to physically decluttering our space and achieving that style or aesthetic that we so desire and personally like. Speaking of style or aesthetic, another decision that can lead us down a path heading towards regret is buying beyond our budget. Now, I believe that form and function can coexist. Some people may disagree with me, but I believe they can. Form meaning the aesthetic or appearance of something, and function meaning it has to be practical, right? I mean, what good is it if your home or an item itself looks very beautiful to look at, but not very practical to use or live in? Now, the reason buying beyond your budget is an issue and can lead to regret on your minimalist journey is because of the financial implications this type of spending can have, which is why it's important that you don't put aesthetics before ethics. Why? Because you can go out and buy yourself a minimalist home in appearance if you want to. I mean, there are a ton of brands and a ton of companies out there that sell minimalist style furniture or Scandinavian style furniture or Japanese style furniture that can help you achieve the look. But when you try to do this on a budget you can't afford, you will regret it. You will end up spending money you don't have. It may lead to debt. It could lead to extra monthly payments, which is never a good thing, or overall poor financial health, or the continuance of this bad buying behavior of spending money you don't have on things you don't really need because you can't really afford them in the first place. It's never a good thing. Now, if that's not something you want, which I assume it is, then how do we prevent what could be a future regret? Or, in other words, how do we walk that line between creating a space and a home that we enjoy and that matches the style that we want, but doing that on a budget we can afford? Because I'll be the first to tell you that some of these prices out here are crazy. And then add on top of that inflation, yeah, there's a better way we can be doing things that can help us steward our money, but also create that space we'll truly enjoy. Number one, get on a budget. You should have no shame in knowing how much you make a month, how much you spend every month, how much you save, because saving is also important, and how much extra money you have left over, and how much you can afford to spend on other items like furniture or plants and all the other things that can help you create the space you want. Number two is ditch comparison or ditch the comparison. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, comparison is a real thing, but as long as your home reflects what you want, as long as it's the style that you enjoy, that's all that matters. Because here's the thing, spending more is not going to make you compare less, right? You have to do that within yourself. And it starts with having the right mindset and the right perspective. And then number three is giving yourself permission. A part of being a good steward of our money is learning how to take care of it, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean not spending it, but it means there is an intent and carefulness behind how we use it. And as long as you're out of debt or avoiding debt, if you're budgeting, if you're using wisdom, if you're living below your means, all of these things in combination together can help you make the right financial decisions, can help you have the extra money to spend on the things you want, to help create the space you'll enjoy at home. Living by rigid rules is decision at number 4 on my list. And I'm not sure why this is, but I feel like this is one of those decisions that us minimalists tend to subscribe to by default, or at least until we check ourselves, or maybe it's just me. Let me know your thoughts on that. But a few weeks ago, my wife and I were working on our son's room and our linen closet because the closet is across the hall from his room simultaneously, right? We were trying to figure out how we wanted to organize things, where we wanted certain things to go. To be honest with you, I was probably overthinking the entire project. Certified overthinker here. But I remember my wife stopping me and asking me, am I being too hard on myself? Or am I being too rigid? And that word rigid really stood out to me, and it's what inspired this part of this conversation. See, the word rigid means unable to bend or to be forced out of shape, not flexible, not able to be changed or adapted. And when you live by rigid rules, it means you are unable to bend or be flexible in your approach. It means you are not willing to change or be open to change. And again, I don't know what it is, but I feel like us minimalists or inspiring minimalists get this idea in our heads that minimalism looks a certain way, that it has to look a certain way, that it only looks a certain way, and that the rules to living a minimalist life are etched in stone somewhere and can't be changed or argued. And that's just not the case. Yes, there are principles, of course. There are best practices and techniques to decluttering, of course, but minimalism looks different for all of us because we each have different circumstances that require different things in our life. As an example, I'm about to be a dad for the first time. My wife and I are about to be parents for the first time. And while we understand that babies don't need a lot of stuff, we need more in our life now than we needed a year ago. And that doesn't mean we're not living a minimalist life. That doesn't mean that our minimalist journey is changing and now we're going to be maximalist or whatever the case is, but we're still minimalist. It just means we need more than what we previously needed because our circumstances call for that. You see, the key is being opposite of rigid, meaning being flexible, being open to change, and understanding that minimalism is a tool and not the end goal. Decision number 5, people pleasing because of guilt. Now, guilt is one of those things that can be hard to navigate. It's an emotion that creates a lot of conflict within us. But at the same time, people pleasing can also be hard to navigate, especially if you're the type of person who doesn't like upsetting people. So you tend to go along with whatever decision has been made. Now, blending the two together and people pleasing because of guilt is a recipe for feelings of regrets, I'm telling you, especially in the context of decluttering gifts, hand me downs, sentimental items, or anything that holds some sorts of meaning. Now, I want to be the first to tell you something that my dad told my brother and I for years, and that is that guilt will take you further than you want to go, keep you longer than you want to stay, and cost you more than you want to pay. And whenever you do something or don't do something because of guilt or people pleasing and you're afraid of upsetting them, you are essentially signing yourself up for a life sentence that will take you further than you want to go emotionally and mentally, that will keep you longer than you want to stay within this emotional tug of war, and that will cost you more than you want to pay emotionally, mentally, and time spent and energy wasted, all because you chose to do something or not do something out of guilt and people pleasing. So, in the context of minimalism and decluttering, the thing to remember is that your journey is your journey. And when you make decisions about what to keep, donate, or discard, they must be intentional, purposeful, and personal. And when you focus on these 3 things, there isn't any room left for people pleasing because you only move with intention and purpose. There isn't any room left for guilt because every decision you make is personal and not because of how someone else makes you feel. Now, if you're someone who is interested in getting faster results on your journey when it comes to minimalism and living with less, but you're also being intentional, purposeful, and personal with the decisions you're making so you don't end up with regret, which is everything we just talked about, then I highly recommend that you watch this video next, where I give my best decluttering advice for faster results without making reckless decisions because to be honest, we like seeing the physical progress we're making because that's the motivation that keeps us going. Keep growing on your journey, friend. Keep learning. Always remember to stay true to you. And I'll see you in this conversation next. Peace.